Hello, and welcome to what is going to be the start of the 315 story. Today, I'm going to start reading one of my favourite books. I always say that, don't I? But ESio Trot by Roald Dahl. This is dedicated to Ryan. I couldn't find a book about terrapins or turtles, but this one's as close as I could get. Mr. Hoppy lived in a small flat, high up in a tall concrete building. He lived alone. He had always been a lonely man, and now that he was retired from work, he was lonelier than ever. There were two loves in Mr. Hoppy's life. One were the flowers that he grew on his balcony. They grew in pots and baskets, and in the summer the little balcony became a riot of colour. Mr. Hoppy's love, second love, was a secret he kept to himself. The balcony immediately below Mr. Hoppy's jutted out a good bit further from the building of his own. So Mr. Hoppy always had a fine view of what was going on down there. This balcony belonged to an attractive middle-aged lady called Mrs. Silver. Mrs. Silver was a widower who lived alone. And although she didn't know it, she was the object of Mr. Hoppy's secret love. He had loved her from his balcony for many years, but he was a very shy man, and he had never been able to bring himself to give her even the smallest hint of his love. Every morning, Mr. Hoppy and Mrs. Silver exchanged polite conversation. "Good morning, good morning." One looking down from above, the other looking up from below. But that was as far as it ever went. The distance between their balconies might not have been more than a few meters, but to Mr. Hoppy it seemed like 1,000,000 miles. He longed to invite Mrs. Silver up for a cup of tea and a biscuit, but every time he was about to form the words on his lips, his courage failed him. As I said, he was a very, very shy man. "Oh, if only I could," he kept telling himself. "If only I could do something tremendous, like rescuing her from a gang of armed thugs, or perform a great heroic feat in her eyes. If only." The trouble with Mrs. Silver was that she gave all her love to someone else, and that someone else was a small tortoise called Alfie. Every day when Mr. Hoppy looked over his balcony and saw Mrs. Silver whispering endearing words of love to Alfie and stroking his shell, he felt jealous, absurdly jealous. He wouldn't even have minded becoming a tortoise himself if it meant Mrs. Silver stroked his shell every morning and said wonderful kind words to him. So, what do you think Mr. Silver's going to do? Do you think him and the love of his life will join up? Tune in tomorrow at 3:15 to find out.